Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast that celebrates the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And for season 2, we are diving into, I almost said Young Frankenstein.
Wow.
And I would have flashed back like a Vietnam war.
Wait a minute. Where are my notes for that?
What? I don't remember.
You need notes after going through it?
No, I could restart it right now.
Where we are diving into the film Blazing Saddles, one hung man and horse minute at a time. I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
I'm your co-host, Walt Murray.
And joining us for the last time, we have the guys from the BK on the Air radio.
Thank God.
You didn't see the guys out there lining up with the weapons?
Not ever, right?
You're
Last
getting
time
walked
ever?
in on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, for this segment of
Okay,
time,
good. Thank you. Scared me.
at least for this week,
For these
how about
minutes.
that?
Scared.
Okay.
Joining us, the guys from BK on the Air, BK and Commander Clark.
Unlucky minute number 13, but we'll make it lucky.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it. We have to make it work.
Or Houston will have a problem.
We're too early in.
For the last time.
Last time.
I look so forward to being on the Woman in Red one.
I do
But I'm not-
too.
this is
Oh, I
the last
didn't
time
mean
I'll never make it.
ever.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not how it sounded.
I
It
mean,
sounded
as
fine.
far as like tomorrow, it's going to be somebody different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That could be you guys.
Yeah, it's somebody different.
Wow,
right?
somebody following us. I pity them.
Who is
Who's
tomorrow?
that?
Oh, tomorrow we've got, actually, this is going to be pretty cool. You want to talk about exact opposite content? We're going to have an actual cowboy reenactor, and we're going to have an actual cowboy historian joining us back to back. We're going to have Jim Dunham, and we're going to have Dwayne Towns. A black cowboy reenactor is Dwayne Towns, and Jim Dunham, who is a trick gun artist, historian, cowboy, storyteller, is going to be a lot of fun.
So two guys who know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Yep.
The opposite of what's going on here.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Perfect.
Wait, somebody that knows about horses. I used to date a girl that looked like Sarah Michelle Gellar.
By the long face.
Doesn't that count? Way back in high school.
That's the sound she made.
Right. How old are you? Okay, thanks.
Horseface, I hardly knew her.
I think that qualifies. I rode a few horses in my day. Come on.
Here, we got your order of ball gags over here. Where do you want me to put them?
On the second shelf from the left.
You sure go through a lot of these.
Right next to the stirrups.
Poor Lady Justice.
What's happening?
And all of a sudden, I'm transported to high anxiety and Nurse Diesel's special
You're right.
closet.
That's right. I was training to be a gynecologist, really, I swear.
Here I'm thinking, bring out the gimp.
But last time you hit too hard.
Bring out your gimp.
I'm not Gimp yet. Oh, wait, no, totally wrong movie.
Oh, and actually,
into
there's another
Monty
movie that it's
Python
like
just
Blazing
like I
Saddles.
did.
Suddenly it's, what? They're being arrested? It's medieval times, and the police are showing up.
No, I don't have a crime police story to tell y'all like from Young Frankenstein. I still don't have one.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
After tonight, maybe.
Well, hold on.
I just saw Blue Lights a minute ago.
That's right.
All right, well, here we are, Wednesday, hump day. We're halfway through the week, and we are going to continue the scene in Hedley Lamarr's office with Hit Me on the Head with a Shovel, and we're going to end with Hedley Lamarr comforting Taggart and actually almost singing a lullaby to him. So something really heavy must happen in this moment. So let's go ahead and open it up. And this is the first time, we mentioned at the very end of last minute, that Hedley Lamarr is aware of an injury, and now we get Taggart talking about how he got that injury, about being hit in the back of the head with a shovel.
That's right.
And Taggart's always startled by the noise that comes from outside. He was never this jumpy earlier in the film. So was it due to his head injury that he's this jumpy now?
Yep. PTSD.
Has to be.
I think it's the almost the same sound of the. He keeps hearing this dong.
Same thing.
Well, I like the way Hedley kind of changes a little bit since Taggart has now come up with this plan that he thinks is going to work, and everything's great because he's like, "Oh, you've been hurt." He says it's so gentle and kind. So then, of course, Taggart makes his request of having Bart hung.
Why, Taggart, you've been hurt. Oh, that uppity went and hit me on the head with a shovel. I'd sure appreciate it, sir, if you could find it in your heart to hang him up by his neck until he was dead. Got him locked up downstairs. Consider it done.
He's like, "Oh, consider it done, you stout fellow." It's so nice.
And you talked about before about how Mel made his villains in these comedies. You can't hate Hedley.
You can't.
No.
You just really can't, even though he's dastardly
he's the
and
bad
underhanded.
guy. We know he's the bad guy,
Right.
but we don't hate him.
Oh.
We still want to see him lose,
Of course.
Yeah.
but
I don't hate Hedley.
we're okay watching him on screen to see what he's going to do next.
Right. Well, what he's going to do here is hit his head again.
Yeah.
The windowsill. And you know what? Had he done the windowsill bit 3 times, it would have been too many times. Mel knew exactly how many times to do
That's right.
something. He really
Even though comedy
always
does
did.
come in threes, he knew that 3 would be
you're
too
right.
much.
Now, this does go back to earlier this week. We were trying to figure out, do we ever hear the Dr. Gillespie hanging? And we don't.
We don't.
No,
We
we
don't
did
ever
not.
hear the trap door on that one.
And that's the one you really would have heard, because if they hung him, that wheelchair would have fallen
Yeah.
down and made a big noise.
But again, how would it fall through that little...
or it would have just
the
turned
trap
over.
door or whatever it is.
It would have turned over.
Funny you bring up a trap door and something as simple as a wheelchair. How about when Lamarr goes to the window to ask for the favor for Taggart? He wants to see if... And Taggart actually embellished his lines a little bit. The actual lines were, "This uppity hit me with a shovel, and I would appreciate it if you could find it in your heart to hang him. He's locked up downstairs." Something about adding "hang him until he was dead."
Right.
Just adds
It
a
makes
little
it better.
extra oomph.
Not till he's unconscious. Right.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
till
that
he's...
was a phrase, though. Like when you were sentenced.
I was going to say, that
where
that
he
was the
hangs from
sentencing
dead
line.
Until
you
dead.
did.
Hang from the neck
I
until dead.
think that is actually still in the penal code. That is the line that you are hung from your neck until you are dead.
He sounds like a judge when he says
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's a very technical legal term.
And then he shifts like, "Oh, by the way, I got him downstairs.
Yep.
Right down here. I brought him with me."
Yep. You can do it right now.
Yeah, Taggart is a very literal. I mean, he's a very earthy guy.
Yes.
Well, and I love it because he's got both hands. He's like saying a prayer. He's like,
Yeah.
"I would find it if you could find it in
I
your
implore
heart
you,
to
sir."
hang him from the neck until he was dead." Got him locked up downstairs.
Consider it done.
So he goes out. Now, you were having the issue with the wheelchair.
I know.
When
This
I
is even
saw
better.
this the first time, and he opens the door, and there's this Mexican bandito on his horse. And I'm thinking, okay, he's on his horse, but then there's a noose around the horse as
Yes,
well as on
and
the
the
Mexican bandito.
Yes, the horse is being hung as well.
This really opens up a lot of questions for me. How do you actually hang a horse? Like that is quite the task.
And what is the reason for hanging the horse other than guilt by association that he rode him off away from the scene? But they don't, well, they do. If you commit a crime, they impound the car that you ran off in.
That's true.
That
That's
could
true.
be that equivalent of this in the Old West.
Right, the impounding is actually they hang him.
The hang the horse.
Well, we would give you the horse back, but...
Well, who are you going to give the horse back to?
He's hung.
The family?
I know the horse is hung. I just need him back.
I mean, we have no idea what the horse did.
No, we don't.
That could be one evil horse. Might have just trampled people left and right.
A lot of people's horse.
He may have enticed the bandito into his crimes.
Perhaps.
It could be that this was a crime of bestiality, and they both needed to go together, and this was just a loving couple.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds really bad.
Yeah, it sounds bad.
Sounds bad.
Well, in the Old
All right,
Testament,
so
that would be the punishment for the animal.
Dark path.
Now, though, I like to see, I was trying to find out who the man on the horse was, since Dr. Gillespie was significant. Maybe this is significant. No, I could not find anything. But I did find that people like to do Lego dioramas of scenes from Blazing Saddles. And I brought pictures. I know you folks on the podcast can't see this, but I wanted you guys to see it. And they are Lego recreations.
This will be perfect if you mark down the day that you go ahead and go into our listeners group or send them to me, and then I can post them in our listeners group.
I will give them to you.
But if he's a member, he could upload them to the.
If I am a member,
Yeah, he can do
if you do the search on your own,
Oh yeah, make sure you're careful of your key
please be
terms.
careful how you do it. Like man and horse hung in Blazing Saddles. you may get some results you don't want.
Like what? I don't know what you're talking about.
All I want to say is make sure your safe search is on.
Oh, gosh.
I never turn that on.
Oh, goodness. And make sure before you do that, make sure your spam filters and malware filters have been up to date.
Yes.
Just use someone else's computer.
Or use somebody else's computer. Can
But
I borrow your
notice-
phone?
I notice other scenes are like the bean scene around the campfire and stuff. And someone actually made the entire Rock Ridge
In Legos?
in Lego.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Well, yeah, definitely we'll make sure we get those pictures posted up so that way, as this episode is live today, we will have those in the listeners group for the entertainment of all of our listeners.
This scene has something else that confuses me a little bit. When it cuts to one shot, it shows the wall in the background, but the next shot is a lower camera angle, and you can see power lines in the background.
Yes.
You ever
And
notice
trees.
that? And trees and power lines and power and lines.
Well, they had telegraph at this time.
Well,
Yes.
but they all but not. Like
and this was
that,
an
no.
important.
No, I was going to say, where'd the wall go?
And this was
Well,
an
it's just a lower
important
camera
city
angle.
because they had multiple telegraph lines.
And there's another scene in this film where there's a power pole listed in the background that's listed as a mistake.
A
It
goof.
should not have been in there. Not in any of these minutes we're covering in our appearance, though, but just that one.
Just this
It just
one.
looked out of place. I'm like, there's power lines back there.
I will say that when they do hang the horse and the guy, it's a louder hanging sound.
It is pretty loud. Well,
Yes.
I mean,
It is.
You know how much a horse weighs?
I know. I'm surprised
lot.
the whole
but
gallow
if you
didn't get
hum a few
destroyed.
bars, I'll fake it.
Well, one of the lines here early on, when he leans out the window and he says,
Boris,
Oh,
I've got a special. When can you work him in?
I couldn't possibly sneak him in until Monday, sir. I'm booked solid.
Monday. Splendid.
hey, could you do me a favor and hang this guy?
Have a special.
He says, I'm booked solid. Oh, a special. Yeah, yes. I got a special. He says, I'm booked solid until Monday. How the hell many people is this guy hanging? It's like he's going to wipe the whole town out.
And don't forget, it's only 7 o'clock in the morning. He's been doing.
He's been
all
at
day
this
long.
all day.
I think they bus him in.
He's the hangman for the entire.
Maybe this is Washington,
Region.
D.C. We just don't know.
Oh, well, that's true.
It has the same problem as the town from Murder, She Wrote. There's just a lot of crime going on. in
There's
this
a whole
place.
lot of crime going on in Cabot
right.
Cove.
I thought about that.
lot.
I watched the ID channel, Investigation Discovery, and one of them is a homicide hunter. Joe,
Joe
Kenda, who was an officer in Colorado Springs in the.
Did you ever even
80s?
say his last name?
Kenda?
Okay.
Joe Anaconda.
Yes, that's it. But that must have been the most dangerous town in the 80s because
Oh, my God.
there's so many killings that he recants on his show.
Wow.
Yes, but I agree. If what's her name shows up in Murder She Wrote, you're gonna die.
Get out.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're gonna die.
Oh no, it's Angela Lansbury. Run away.
Well, there's a theory on the internet that she actually framed all those people,
yep.
and that she's actually the murderer.
Yep.
And her punishment was she was turned into a tea kettle.
Yes. Mrs.
Her
Potts.
punishment from then on.
Well, where do you think she got all the ideas for her
Blame
books?
Disney for everything.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't she a witch in bed knobs and broomsticks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she was.
So burn her.
Did she weigh the same as a duck?
Possibly.
Did she float?
Turn me
Very
into a
small
newt.
pebbles.
Oh, you'll float.
What else floats? Very small pebbles.
What else?
That's the third time we went back to Monty Python tonight.
Oh my gosh.
on these broadcasts that we're doing these minutes.
Well,
Monty Python. We must be.
I blame Netflix because they now have all the Monty Python stuff on. So
Have you been going through
I've
it?
been a little flooded with Monty Python lately.
Well, there's worse things to
Yeah,
have.
really,
There
yeah,
are
I'd say worse
There's a
things.
lot worse things you can have floating around through your head.
Well, nobody.
I know.
does a
I've
podcast
been here
them.
with you.
Right.
I've been
For
here-
some of it,
I've
yes.
experienced random spoutings from out of your head.
That would be the Dave Made a Maze episodes that you can find Alan and I pontificating on a movie we had not watched. Sorry. It's kind of like me taking a final exam in college. Stuff that I had not even studied.
Deer in headlights.
So, a couple of changes to the script
I
here
haven't picked A in a while.
before we get back to whatever else you guys are talking about.
Anal Johnson?
Lamar says, Monday, splendid, and bangs his head coming in through the shade. Then Taggart says, much obliged. And don't you worry, Mr. Lamar. We'll make Rock Ridge sorry it was ever born. Lamar says, splendid. Then we hear a crash from outside as the horse and rider go plummeting through the trapdoor. Boris from off-screen yells, sorry. Fade out. There was not supposed to be Taggart jumping into Lamarr's arms. It was just supposed to be hearing one more time Boris say, sorry.
But wait,
I know you thought to keep it down out here.
but it also doesn't have Taggart's line about
Oh, no, nothing about this. I was waiting for this. I just wanted to get to the scene ends in the script the way I just read it.
Well, the best line of the whole thing is,
And don't you worry. Why, we'll make Rock Ridge think it's a chicken that got caught in a tractor's nuts. Splendid!
I'll make them regret this. I'll make them feel like a chicken caught in a tractor's nuts.
What is that?
Which I have. I got to tell you, I'm a redneck, and I've got family all over the South, and I have never heard the line, a chicken caught in a tractor's nuts.
But for some odd reason, I know what he means.
I know exactly what he means.
It's true.
But I didn't know tractors had nuts until right now.
Well, first, we're in 1874.
There are no tractors.
Tractors. Mm-hmm.
They're parked behind those power lines back there.
Mr. Deere has not perfected his tractor yet.
But
Maybe
that
it
would
was
be the
supposed to be-
tractor that had nuts would be
that
John
would
Deere,
be.
a buck.
Yeah, you got that right.
What if it was reversed and it was supposed to be a tractor caught in a chicken's nuts? Small tractor.
Well, it'd have to be a cock's nuts because chickens don't have
That's true.
Yeah, well, we call everything cows, even those are the females.
So, yeah, but I mean, that's the first thing I had was tractors were not invented at this point in time. There are no such things as
They
tractors.
had plows, but not
Yeah.
tractors,
Oh, yeah.
right.
But they didn't have tractors.
Okay, that's it. This movie is.
Yeah, that ruined
That
it.
pulled me out of
That
it.
ruined
I'm
Right.
done.
I had no idea there were genders when it came to farm equipment.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that would make this film worse is that it would break the fourth wall.
That's right.
Yep.
And I don't see any
I've
that
seen no
happening in
evidence
these
of
minutes
that
right now,
happening.
so that's good.
Not yet. We don't break a fourth wall, studio wall.
Studio wall,
We don't
screen,
knock down fake buildings.
come down the screen.
Right.
Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Pink Floyd the wall. You know the funny thing about, and we're looping here, so that way we're constantly going back around, but one of the things that is a trope for Westerns when you're going to hang somebody is a lot of times you would have the person who's about to be hung on his horse and they'd slap the horse
Right.
to make him
Yes.
go out from underneath you. So this still fits the Western motif. What's funny is the Mel Brooks spin on it of having the horse having a noose around its
So
neck
when
as
the
well.
horse is slapped at this point, both jobs will be taken care of. If
Oh,
it
yeah.
runs.
That's right.
Unless, well, it's a really smart horse. Like,
No, I ain't running. I'm not going anywhere.
Dude, do you think I'm dumb? Look, I'm about to have a couple of colts later that will be the forebearers of Mr. Ed. That was bad.
Yeah.
Well, Barry came up with the whole lineage and back all the way to Robin Hood. So, figure we have a smart horse.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I looked up the lineage of this horse, too.
Yes.
With the hangman. And he's in the Robin Hood scene, too. No, Men in Tights. What I do want to ask here, and we talked about this, too, amongst ourselves, is when Taggart is being soothed by Hedley, which becomes his father figure there, and he's a little baby, and starts to sing his lullaby.
It's all right. Shh. It's all right, Taggart. Just a man and a horse being hung out there. Shh. Do, 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 do.
None of us has ever really been able to figure out what lullaby he's singing. It might
Yes.
just be kind of made up. It sounds kind of like Beethoven's Night, but it's not. So
Not really.
I don't
Not
think
exactly,
it's
but it
really
is. It's
anything.
a do, 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 do.
It's like
he
it's
doesn't, he
missing
doesn't
a-
quite
missing
hit
a note.
all the notes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
But it is kind of funny to have this rough and tumble cowboy.
singing a lullaby.
Well, he jumps into he jumps in the first man's arms that he sees. They hold me. He tell me it'll be all right.
Pats his back like he's burping him.
Right. He becomes like a
so
child.
beautiful.
Yep.
Well, he's hurt. You know, he is hurt.
He's
you know.
hurt.
Well, he does have a diaper on his head.
And
so.
he needs to
Pretty
go.
much.
He needs to go do the rest of his shenanigans and his bad business. So he wants to make sure he's all right
Yes.
and comforts him.
Go back and do the plan. Looking forward to the dance.
Poor guy is like a chicken caught in a tractor's nuts.
Yes, it's like, which sounds painful. I know exactly what that sounds like.
That's my new line, I think.
That's your new
Yeah,
line.
that's a new one.
Caught in a tractor's nuts.
That reminds me of the line from Top Secret that's Michael Goh says to Nick Rivers, who is Val Kilmer, who plays in it.
Right,
He breaks
right.
into prison and he goes, if the Nazis find you here, your life will be worth less than a truckload of dead rats in a tampon factory. I don't know quite what that means, but it sounds really bad.
Sounds bad.
If you think about it, a truckload of dead rats in a tampon factory. That's what your life will be worth. That sounds about as much sense as a tractor's nuts.
Wait.
You gonna write that one down?
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
I know it's late.
Lines that we don't understand, but we understand. We don't know what it means, but I get it. That would be bad. That'd be a worthless life.
She's sitting there
A
trying
truckload
to
of dead rats in a tampon factory. That just sounds low. I don't know why. That sounds
because what
terrible.
could you possibly use the rats for in the tampon factory?
But
absorption rates?
What? Just a bunch of dead rats that exterminator got? I don't know. It just sounds bad. It sounds bad. That's what the tractor's nuts. That just sounds bad. It makes no sense, but it sounds bad. I have blown Walt's mind.
Yeah, see,
you remember the line from Top?
Oh, yeah, I do.
It's
now that you
hilarious.
mention it, and I've just never really
and what
kind of
makes
parsed it out.
What makes it more unbelievable is the proper English actor Michael Gough, who played Alfred in the Batman Tim Burton movies and Hammer
that's right.
films, delivers this line.
Yep,
like that. It's great.
Okay.
All right, there you go. That's all I can. That's all I
You're
can
just gonna
compare
move
it
on,
to.
aren't you?
That's all I can compare it to.
Have you pictured it in your head?
Yes.
Yes.
You see the factory?
This
I've
big
got it.
rats.
This big bin of dead rats.
You see the tractor with the nuts hanging under it? Do you see it all?
Yeah, I don't think they had those like
It's
they have
visual.
on pickup trucks now.
Yeah, if I spend too much time on this, my brain might explode.
You're going to text me like 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. Oh, I get it.
I've got it.
It has a tail and it's a string and it looks like and it's used.
Terrible.
Oh, I got it.
Like a mouse on
Got
a
it.
computer. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's like, I got it. I ain't got it.
I ain't got it.
Got it. Hey, I ain't got it.
Yeah, take it back. You got it? Take it back. No, I don't want it.
All right. This is amazing, but it's perfect because for some reason this may end up being our shortest one that we've had with you guys.
Well,
because this one, there's not a lot that happens in this minute.
No.
We've kind of been in this room for a long time now.
Yes.
We're establishing at least how we're supposed to get rid of the Cleavon Little character. He's going to get hung on Monday.
Yep.
Because he's booked solid until then.
Yes. He works weekends, apparently.
And we also know that Taggart has some kind of PTSD from his attack.
Mm-hmm.
And that Lamarr knows exactly what he's going to do. He's going to allow them to work the number 6 up on Rock Ridge. So I think that might be important to keep in mind for the rest of this week.
Yes.
yes.
May have been foreshadowing.
So this is one of those scenes. You know, we talked about this in Young Frankenstein, that Young Frankenstein, you could turn the sound off and it's a monster movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is kind of in that same design and idea, but this is definitely one of those minutes that if you turn the sound off, this definitely doesn't seem like you're not thinking this is a serious cowboy movie. Because there's a lot of just good comedy in this minute between the horse with the noose around his neck, the English-dressed hangman, and what generation is he?
19th generation.
19th
of
generation.
Boris Hangman.
You've got the cops who seem out of time.
You got him banging his head as he lifts back and hits it. You can tell he hits his head when he comes back.
Power lines in the background.
Yeah.
All right, one of the things I just noticed in this, I did not know Boris was a member of the House of Slytherin. Y'all watch Harry Potter at all?
Yes.
House of Slytherin. Well, you know then. House of Slytherin, right?
Right.
And one of the Harry Potter movies, they always gave it away because he kept flicking his tongue in and out.
That's right.
Right around second 20, heading into 21, when Boris has his back, getting ready to hang the man and the horse, he turns around and sticks his tongue out 4 or 5 times. Like, So apparently he's a member of the House of Slytherin. He went sorting hat, and it's a perfect job for a Slytherin.
Who's the one character in Harry Potter that took over the role of Mad-Eye Moody and stepped in for him? That played Doctor Who.
Oh, that was
David Tennant.
Who
did he play? What was the name of the character? You remember his character's name? That's what he did a lot with his tongue.
Right. It was Barty Crouch Jr.
Right. You're right. It's like him.
And that was always the tell, but you didn't notice the first time watching the
Mad-Eye
movie
Moody was
until
doing
the next time, and then you realize he'd been flicking his tongue every now and then. You thought he was just like that was his little.
That's right.
Well,
it's just gross.
Now we got Boris turning around, and when he first turns around, he flicks his tongue out a good 3-4 times.
Then that means he's not related to the Boris from Robin Hood. He's the same guy. He's just immortal, maybe.
He could be if he had the Philosopher's Stone.
That's right.
Or
the Sorcerer's Stone for us American audiences.
Yeah. Depending on where you are.
Now, our show's gone worldwide, we found. We've got actually British followers.
Really?
And we have to make sure
nice.
we include them.
Wonderful,
So.
yeah. I love Benny Hill.
So we love Benny Hill.
And Thunderbirds.
We're
Yep.
cool.
Monty Python.
We're all cool now here.
Right. Jerry
Now.
Anderson.
Here.
Jerry Anderson.
now.
Love
And
all those
How are you?
British stuff.
In
yeah.
the British office.
And we like talking with British accents poorly.
And we apologize for stealing all your TV show ideas.
Yes, but
Yes.
we just know how to spend more money on them to make them look better.
Not necessarily
Kinda.
written better.
They're not written better,
Yeah.
but they just look
Well,
better.
yeah, All in the Family. Yeah, Three's Company, Sanford and Son. They're all from England.
Friends.
Wait, what's Sanford and
Friends.
Son?
Steptoe and Son was a British show, and it's Sanford and Son.
Did they sell
Yeah.
junk?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess I have to go change my T-shirt.
No, Sanford and Son's funnier. You got the right one. You big dummy.
I'll just cross it out. What is it? Steptoe?
Steptoe, yeah.
Steptoe.
You got to check
Steptoe.
out YouTube. Look for Steptoe and Son.
I
You'll
wonder if
see
I
him.
could find a Steptoe and Sons T-shirt.
You probably could if you look. Yeah, not on MeTV though.
Now, what were the
.com.
similarities and differences?
It was the older man with his son in a junkyard. It was basically the same kind of story.
Same
They
concept.
were not black though. They were British white guys.
That's really a very endearing tagline there. An older man and his son in a junkyard.
In a junkyard. Yeah.
Junkyard.
Three's Company was Three's a Crowd. A Man About the House. That was the name of the original show. And
Oh.
All in the Family was Justice for All. I think.
Did they
or
have a
Those Were the
Suzanne
Days or something like
Summers?
that. Yeah. Yep. We stole all their shows.
Oh no,
Sure,
we've
yeah.
stolen everything from everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
Well, we owed the British stealing from them. We owed them for that anyway.
I mean, we've stolen from
Revolutionary War
Japanese
thing.
horror, like The Ring, wasn't that? Or one
Yeah.
of those movies was actually a
Yeah.
Japanese horror
Right,
story,
it
and then
was.
we just, hey, we'll do it better.
Yep.
Well, it's just the same movie with better special effects and more money.
That's right. Yeah.
And Caucasian, American, European-looking people.
Say it.
I was trying to think of the
All
right
those-
way.
All those wrapped into one.
Yep. Non-Asian.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that we have a problem with that. I mean,
Nah, I don't have a problem with it. I like it. It's okay.
now we did give them Smokey and the Bandit. So
Right. And that alone should give us a pass.
yeah, I mean, even Star Wars, when you think about it, was sort of like taken from the Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
The Hidden Fortress, I think, was
Yeah.
the
Hidden
one.
Fortune, a little bit of both of them. Yeah.
But dadgummit, every which way but loose is ours.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Right
Long as
turn,
Smokey the
Clyde.
Bandit. Yep.
That's right. That is uniquely American.
Rolls down the window.
Or should I say American?
American.
well, even then, when we did the Western, we decided to go to Spain and film those
Right,
things.
absolutely.
Yes.
And then we called them spaghetti westerns for some reason because we had an Italian guy doing the composition.
Spaghetti
Well, but we didn't do
Western.
those either. It was Italian director. Those
That's
are Italian
true.
movies.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
That's right. We
Man.
had a leading man that was American. Good old Clint.
Clint Eastwood.
That's right.
Fistful of Dollars. Man with no name.
For a few dollars more.
Well, he was known as the
Yes.
Man with No Name. But
No
it was,
Name, yeah.
what are the three? It's Fistful of Dollars.
Fistful of dollars.
A few dollars more.
For a few dollars more, and the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to have to go back and watch all those. I have not seen those three movies in probably 20 years.
He did one after that, but it wasn't Italian. It was along the same lines where they tried to hang him. It was called Hang 'Em High. I mean,
That is a
good.
great movie.
I'm so glad you put that in there, so that way I will have to try to figure out how to cover that up.
Why? That's kind of cool. I like that
You're
sound
like
effect.
you're like the
There's nothing
freaking
wrong
guys
with
in the
that.
Star Wars movies that they had to say cut. You don't have to make the woo woo sound.
lightsaber
Well, it was
Hey,
less
we'll
than
add
30
those
seconds,
later.
so
But
you
let me-
can.
Yeah, but you know what? Let me ask everybody that's got a microphone right now. If you were cast in a Star Wars movie, you'd probably do it for the first couple of
At
scenes.
least once.
I was
I
just so excited to
I
be
would probably
there.
be going, pew, pew, pew,
I know
pew,
I
pew.
would.
Someone actually was doing that too. I heard that story.
Ewan McGregor.
Oh,
was making
McGregor
the-
did
No,
it.
Ewan
the-
McGregor was
he
doing the
was-
sword
yeah,
sounds, but
lightsaber
someone
sounds.
did the laser bolt.
Somebody
thing.
probably did the pew pew pew. Yeah,
I heard that someone
would.
went pew
I
pew,
would.
and they had to go. We'll actually add that
Yes.
later.
I would. Hey, were you in the Star Wars movie? No, I got fired. Why? Because I wouldn't do the sound effect. But I was there for one day.
Well, I've heard of other people doing that in movies where they're using guns. They'll be
Right.
like, pow, 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 pow.
That's weird.
Well, I bet
It
that
is weird.
hopefully they didn't do it during this movie, which is Blazing Saddles.
But it also shows you, when we
that
were
what we're
growing
talking
up,
about?
that's what we did. Like if we were
we
playing
back
with
to the-
toy
let's
guns.
get
Back to
there.
the movie?
Wait, what movie?
Exactly.
Where we were.
All right. Well, we are starting to wrap this one up. We do have a couple more minutes this week, and as we alluded to earlier, we're actually going to have a couple of actual cowboy historians and cowboy reenactors for us for tomorrow. Walt, you and I will be joined by Jim Dunham and Dwayne Towns. Looking forward to hearing their perspective. I told them we really want to kind of get their thoughts in general of how Hollywood sort of paints a different version of the West versus the real West. Some of the clothing choices, maybe some of the gear, because these guys know that inside and out.
It's going to be an interesting conversation because one of the books that I'm reading now, I was trying to finish it before we started. Hollywood really gave us the idea of what the Wild West was like. And it is completely wrong.
Oh, totally wrong.
Completely
In fact, one of the
wrong.
things, and the reason I'm bringing Dwayne Townsend is he's a black cowboy reenactor. He grew up, he rode a horse. He was telling me on the phone that when he rode a horse for the first time as a kid, he said to his mom and dad, "This is what I want to be. I want to be a cowboy." And his parents said, "You can't be. There's no such thing as a black cowboy."
It's not true.
And it's not true. But he grew up thinking because Hollywood was always white actors, and even white actors played the Indians with makeup. You know, they very rarely had anything ethnically correct. There were a lot of black cowboys. There were a lot of black ranch hands and people working in commerce. And actually, there was a much more diverse West than there was the segregated East, where all these supposedly highfalutin, the established colonies that had grown into these towns. But actually, the West had flourished, and it's nice to see movies like Unforgiven and other ones that came out that actually said, "Oh yeah, there were plenty of different races. There were all kinds of people, and white people were bad, and white people were good, and black people were bad, and black people. Hey, just like real life, don't judge a book by the outside cover. You got to figure out what's on the inside."
There was a show called Adam Ruins Everything. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's really fascinating. But one was Adam Ruins the Old West, and I didn't know that. I believed the Hollywood version. And when he's saying all this, I'm like, really? Really? Wow. Hollywood got it wrong again. How dare they lie to me?
I know.
Totally
Crazy.
wrong.
Well, racism was just not really an issue in the Wild West.
There was, but there's always been people who judge people because you look different.
Sure,
but it wasn't. I mean, you didn't have slavery going on in the West. You didn't have, there were free black men doing things. And you had a lot of, in fact, the whole idea of bulldogging came from a black guy who figured out how to actually wrestle a bull down and get control of it. I mean, there was a black sheriff who technically some people say the Lone Ranger was modeled after. He had over 1,000 arrests.
Oh, wow.
There's so many stories. And Jim Dunham and I talk all the time about, I wish we'd see more of Hollywood going back now and making not just good movies, but helping to retell the actual history, not a version of history.
And producers and creators also did something really, really good. And one of the stories is when Whoopi Goldberg, she said when she was a little girl, she would watch Star Trek and see Nichelle Nichols on there as Lieutenant Uhura. She said, "Wow, that's great. Some of my fellow people are going to be in space and be in the future. I don't see them on a lot of other shows back in the late 60s growing up watching television." So that kind of Star Trek, and Gene Roddenberry got that right because he wanted to put every one of every facet on his TV show.
Wasn't what she actually said? She ran into the kitchen to tell her, Mom, there's a black woman on television and she ain't a maid.
Okay, I don't know. I guess maybe she did. If you heard that.
An interesting side note.
That would make sense. Yeah,
is Nichelle Nichols almost quit Star Trek?
She did.
She didn't feel like she was getting enough screen time. And Martin Luther King Jr. came in and told her how much he loved the show and how important it was for her to be on it in that character because it helped people to see what the future could be like.
Yes. So sometimes some people, and I know it's set in the future, not in the past, in the cowboy days, but sometimes they do think about that and cast things properly like that, and they get away with it.
Wow,
Gene Roddenberry snuck a lock by.
We actually came up with something substantive to end this episode with. I like it.
It ain't over yet.
Yes, because when I was younger, I thought quicksand was going to be a bigger problem.
Well, exactly right.
We were kids. I was scared to death of quicksand.
Thought it was everywhere.
Well,
see, I'm still scared of having my chickens get caught in tractors' nuts.
This was the movie, though, that set for me that was like, well, of course there's black people in the West. Don't you remember Blazing Saddles?
Yeah.
Because it was one of the first Westerns I remember seeing as a kid. And I always, and then I went through that phase where I thought, oh, they did that for comedy. And then no, that actually is more reflective of what the West was like than most of the Westerns we grew up with. So,
well, and most of the racial problems came from people who moved from the East out to the West and brought their stupid baggage with them.
Right. Yep. Right. But the bigger problems in the West had to do with land. People who either had it or wanted to take it from you.
Exactly.
Much like Hedley Lamarr wants to steal the town of Rockridge.
Especially if you got land that's in the path of the railroad being built.
Any kind of land that might be valuable.
Big bucks.
Land that your sheep can graze on, land that your steer can go on, or a river or a creek that you want because you need to be able to give water to your animals.
Yes.
Yeah, there was if you now we're going completely off the rails, but talking with Jim Dunham, he talks all the time about most of our characters in the West. If they have a crime or a criminal background, a lot of it started off with problems with land or land ownership. And so you either were forced to rob people or rob banks because that was the only way you could get any kind of money and just the whole idea of territory. And that's what really led to a lot of battles.
If you got a problem with bushwhackers and bad guys, just put up a toll gate and it'll keep them out of there. That's all you got to do.
And then somebody's got to go back to town and get a load of dimes.
All right. As we start to wind down this episode, Barry, what do you got left in your notes for this minute?
I got a few left. We talked earlier that I'd never seen the TV version of this. I wish I could get a hold of it or see some of the deleted scenes. It would be nice to see what they put back in there. But Mel Brooks, a few things about Mel Brooks, because I've always had a lot of just respect and big admiration for the guy. He refused to watch the TV broadcast edit of the film because he believes all the comedy's been stripped out, which he's right, I guess, if it's the TV version. We talked about that. And bravo to him, because not too long ago, as the time of our recording here, which is, January of 2019, just before the New Year's, he came out and was talking about, he made the statement about how he's never been a fan of political correctness. Did you guys see that when he came out and made that statement just a few months ago?
I believe his whole thing that political correctness is killing comedy.
His actual quote was, "It's the death of comedy," and that's exactly, I agree with him 100% on that too. And in 2017, I don't know if this has come to fruition. I couldn't find any more news on this, but he says that he has a strong desire to turn Blazing Saddles into a stage play.
To a musical, like he's done with the
stage play, yeah. And I don't know if it's happened. I haven't found anything recently on it, any movement, but that was of 2017. In September, so that was pretty late.
BK, do you have anything else on your notes?
No, other than Mel Brooks in a 2016 interview said Young Frankenstein is probably the best movie I ever made. Did you guys know that he said that in 2016? He also said Blazing Saddles is the funniest movie.
Is the funniest.
So
I do know
there's a difference between the two.
I do know, and it's in our interview that you'll get at the end of the season with Bart and Gilliam when we released the whole thing. Mel Brooks was asked, hey, Some Like It Hot is still considered the AFI's funniest movie of all time. And he goes, no, it's not. The funniest movie of all time is Blazing Saddles, followed by Blazing Saddles, followed by Blazing Saddles, and then followed by Blazing Saddles. And then maybe after that, Young Frankenstein.
Something Like It Hot didn't even get on there.
No, he's like, no, Blazing Saddles at least in the top 4, followed by Young Frankenstein.
Well, he also said that Harvey Korman was one of the best top bananas, one of the greatest second bananas that ever lived, and I agree with that.
Totally agree
with that too.
Yeah, totally agree. So, and we did find out from Burton that Madeline Kahn was one of his favorite actresses of all time, Mel Brooks's, to work with.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I believe that. Yeah, she's awesome.
If you get a chance, look on YouTube and look up Madeline Kahn's appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. It's fantastic because Don Rickles is on there with her, and you can imagine what happens.
That's all you need to say.
That's all that you can imagine what happens. But she handles herself very well.
All right, Commander Clark, what do you have left?
Nothing.
No, that's good.
We covered it all.
I got nothing.
And I'll send you those pictures.
Excellent.
So you post them when you feel like it.
Walt, what do you got left?
There are actually two things that I want to say. Nothing from this minute. I think we've covered it. There is a very interesting clip that I found this week, and I'm going to post that on our listeners group, where Mel is receiving an award for like Lifetime Achievement in Arts from President Obama. And I had not seen this before, but President Obama actually talks about how funny Blazing Saddles is.
Wow!
So I was surprised and happy to hear that. I would really love for him to parse that out a little bit more. And maybe we should reach out and see if we can get him on the show. That will happen.
He's between jobs.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's
I have not found anybody that I can put on the record that said that they can't stand or never thought it was funny. All these comedians that I know, all of these talk show hosts, all of these performers and actors, when asked, they think it's one of the funniest movies of all time. And yet every single one of them, when asked, could you make it today? They all say no.
Nope.
So how is that possible? How can you see the humor and understand the message over here, but I would never want it done today because it's too offensive? Like it makes, what did you say the big quote was? That political
correctness has been the death of comedy by Mel Brooks.
The death of comedy.
And that's exactly right.
Well, you got to remember, too, the people who are offended are white people because they don't get it. They're offended by All in the Family. And that whole thing was about how ridiculous racism and stuff is.
Right. Well, I think what it is it's the surface level where you're reacting to something and you're trying to say, well, I would never find that funny. I'm too good for that.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, then you're missing the bigger point of the story, which means you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Like my dad always said, if I offended you, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10. Okay, so I've got one thing to say, and that is that we would love for our listeners to come and join us on our Facebook listeners group if you haven't already. You can find it at www.facebook.com. Join that group.
Did you just say www?
Of course I did.
He's killing me.
Hold it. I'm writing that down. Hold on.
Yes, W.
W. And what's the third
Wait,
one?
don't.
Well, and you really need to
W.
put HTTP.
Oh, hold on.
P.
Okay, let me make it easy.
Okay.
Facebook.com/The Wilder Ride.
Dumping it all. I'm gonna
Hey,
Hit like.
you know what? Randomly at 18 minutes, I'm just stopping, and we're just going to be done.
I post in there.
Well,
all
then
the
I'm
time.
going to let you just take yesterday's closing and drop that in.
No, go ahead.
So,
I post in there all the time. I love the listeners.
oh, you do, and it's awesome. And in fact, you posted the art from the TV.
And
TV guide.
and the
TV
Spanish
guide.
poster for
Yes.
the Spanish poster,
that
for
which was
the
really
saddles.
cool.
And next week I'm going to post nude photos of the horse that's in the hanging scene. I have those too.
I heard he's pumped.
Yeah.
You know what I found really funny about that poster, the Spanish poster? Bart is wearing sunglasses.
Yes,
It is that whole poster is so
it's just great.
different from what the
It
movie
is. It looks like a different film.
It really does.
It looks like a Western porn film or something.
It's like
That is
somebody
exactly what it looks like.
Explained to a Spanish artist, here's what I think the movie's about, and they just drew it.
Yeah, that is exactly
right.
right. And here's a vague description of who the actors are.
It's a hip 70s black actor on a horse. And okay, I'll put him in shades.
Right.
It doesn't. It's all.
And Gene looks like a Jewish guy.
It's too anachronistic. It's really weird.
It is. It is very weird.
And everyone, please, and look up Robert Ridgely and check out the guy's credits. I mean, he is a fantastic character actor. Big
I think I
fan.
saw 154 credits.
Big fan of the
which
guy.
may be the most credits of any of the actors
He
we've
was
talked about.
incredible, a guy. Very great performer.
Yeah, he really is.
Before we ask you guys whether you could be heard, I want to give you this quote to butt up against what you said your dad used to say about being offended. And this is so funny. This just was shared with me today from a friend in England saying, it's the actor Stephen Fry. It's now very common to hear people say, I'm offended by that, as if that gives them certain rights. It's not more than a whine. It has no meaning. It has no purpose. It has no reason to be respected as a phrase. I'm offended by that? Well, so fucking what?
Perfect.
Boom.
Perfect.
If I could drop this microphone, I would.
Yes.
But I can't get it off just
All right,
stand.
BK, you and Commander Clark, you have a radio show Saturdays. Tell us how you can tune in, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and listen.
You can. We have a huge retro nostalgic geekiness radio show every Saturday from 10 a.m. till noon Eastern. www.wphradio.org or use the TuneIn app to listen to us. We talk about stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even back to the 30s, even up to yesterday. What happened yesterday. We love talking about things that we grew up with and retro nostalgic fun. And we play a lot of tricks on each other on the air too. So find out what that's all about.
And it's called BK on the air.
Right.
In case you're wondering.
On the air. Well, yeah, I was getting to that. He's so fast. Barely see him.
He's ready to go.
Yeah.
I am.
He's like,
Wow.
yeah, actually, my ass has already left. I had to go
I
catch it.
love it. I could stay here at least another 30 seconds.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Movies by Minutes webpage. There are 123 movies or something that have been reviewed under that Movies by Minute format that we use, and it's everything from the Blues Brothers now are getting covered. Every movie you can possibly imagine is getting worked on there or has been. So
Well, the list grows. Every time I go to it, there's another one that's been added, someone that's getting ready, someone in pre-production, someone that wrapped up a former movie and getting ready for
That's
a
right.
new movie. Sometimes not even in a franchise, just they say, I want to move to a different movie now.
that's right. And the original guys doing this were the gutterballs.com folks, and then Star Wars Minute picked it up and ran with it. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. So take a minute to go to moviesbyminutes.com and check out the movies there.
And definitely come back tomorrow for minute number 14. We're going to have Jim Dunham and Dwayne Towns joining us in studios as we begin the Ballad of Rock Ridge as the town. We get a sense of a day in the life of Rock Ridge until the number 6 gets a roddin' and a rumpin'. And then we will end with my favorite new name, Anal Johnson.
Check the credit list. It's there.
It's there. He's
always
real.
kept things nice and clean. It's going to be great.
It is going to be something.
Well,
But you got to come back tomorrow for this, The Wilder Ride.
Thank you for having us on. We've had a good time.
Yes.
And if this Blazing Saddles version of your podcast doesn't get you barred from the podcast world, we'll be glad to come back sometime.
Well, if it does, we'll just put a TV version out.
Good. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
You scum bum. That sounds good.
That's right. We'll just put a lot of horse whinnies everywhere.
See property.
It seemed to work last season.
You're full of sugar.
And we're rolling.
Last episode.
This is the what?
Did you save the last episode?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
When he paused there, I got panicked.
I did too. I was like,
I was
oh.
thinking, did I? Like me saving the show on Saturday.
I'm
I
glad
did
you
record.
This would be a bigger
I did.
mistake, though. Than
I
that.
saved it.
I saved it.
It's saved.
That doesn't sound too reassuring.
We hear it. It's Alan's doing all our voices, trying to remember.
You know, I've done some crazy shit trying to make things happen.
I know. Oh, believe me, I know.
Do the whole South Park trick where I pull your voices from other shows and kind of
I think he is.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes like a ransom note.
Smithers, you really turned me on.
Let's turn the monitor off.
What's happening there, veal children?
I love these late night sessions.
It's
All right.
Salisbury Steak Day.
Hello, children. Salisbury Steak
Lifting
Day.
audio from another track from early in the movie. Nice lady.
Nice lady.
And now we'd like to welcome
Did you hear the train
CSX
coming? I'm trying to get you to stop talking.
our episode.
What
trying to get your final
do you
thought.
mean by that, Alan? What are you talking about, Alan? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
All right, I'll just cut it early.